Hey, sports fans! Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live show / podcast recording. I am joined again by Andrew Combo Salop, who has joined us 2 weeks ago, and will be here, I think, every other week to discuss the NBA. So, Andrew, thanks for joining me today.
Anytime, Coach Nick. It's always great being on your platform. Hope your holidays are going well, and it's always great talking basketball with you, Coach Nick.
Absolutely. And forgive me, Combo. I won't call you Andrew, and you don't need to call me Nicholas, and we'll be happy. So, did you watch the game last night? Did you have a chance to see the Suns versus the Warriors?
I did. It was great, and the Knicks-Nets game was great as well. It was a good night of NBA basketball, Coach.
It was. Now, I watched the last most of the fourth quarter of the Knicks-Nets. And there's some troubling things going on. My mind is now blanking, but what was it down the stretch? Was that game? I don't even remember. But Thibodeau, it seems to drive me nuts a lot with his end of game decision making. But we'll talk about that as it comes back to my mind. But let's talk about the Warriors and the Suns, because I'm kind of curious your take. I just dropped a video on that, and people are getting having a big reaction to it so far. So what were your thoughts initially over what this means in the first quarter of the season?
I mean, Steph didn't shoot the ball great. I think that had a lot to do with the outcome. Even if he shoots the ball okay, I think the Warriors still have a great chance to win. Chris Paul is phenomenal. I feel like maybe his athleticism isn't the same as when he was young, but he might be even more skilled in the mid-range than ever, even though he always had that in his game. Mikal Bridges is such a difference maker. And I don't think there's a defender better in the league not named Draymond than him. It's quite possible he might be the second best defender in the NBA. I don't know your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. And I'm not going to bring up Evan Mobley just yet, because I got just absolutely roasted yesterday on Twitter for my take on his defense. But so I'm on record as thinking that Draymond could very well be the best defender of his era, if not of all time. And I've also on record as showing how much I really love Mikal Bridges. I've done at least, I would say, 2 videos on him, I think last year alone, where we spent at least a little bit of that video talking about how good his defense is. So without question, I mean, here's the thing the Warriors were doing that was interesting was every chance they were getting him off of Steph. They were trying to ball screen or screen off him to force his switches. And Steph had no relief, because either it was like Jay Crowder, who's a good defender on him, or it was Cam Johnson, who's long and can move his feet really well. Even DeAndre Ayton, I think DeAndre Ayton deserves a lot of credit for his defense as well. He's just terrific. Yeah. He blocked his Steph 3-point shot. I mean, we never see that. And it was a moment where Steph could have done his little, and I showed it in the video, because a lot of times Steph will let the ball float before he shoots it, which really makes it hard to figure out whether he's going to shoot it or cross over or go. And he did a quick, a really short hop gather, which the dribble ends right away. There's only one thing he can do, which would be left, right, to the left, and then try and shoot it. And he just timed it perfectly and just blocked it out of there. So I just felt like maybe the Warriors are trying to go too fast for a lot of the game, and we're turning it over, and just even aside from turning it over, just taking some bad shots.
Yeah, DeAndre Ayton, he's such a presence, and it's great to see that all the money stuff that's going on with him isn't distracting him from his play. He seems to be playing with a great attitude. He's a presence on both sides of the court, and he's just playing so big. He's showing you that, he's imposing his will as a big man on that team. So it's really good to see. For sure.
And, a quick perusal of the comment section, which is I don't know, did it freeze? Because I don't see too many people. Usually it's a nonstop stream, but I do see Martin Jose saying, "Hey, hello." If you have any questions, you can throw some questions into the comments, and we'll try and get to them. Or obviously, super chat would be another way to go and get my attention right away. But okay, good to know that DeJounte Murray was just asked about in the comments, so that we know that it's working. Let's throw that question out there, since it's got my eye, and we can just take a quick U-turn or a left turn off of our conversation for a second. So Kratky wants to know about DeJounte Murray. That dude is crazy good this year. I don't know. I went to the Spurs-Clippers game, and the Clippers, the Spurs did not look good at all. So I don't know. Have you been watching a lot of Spurs?
Not their full games, but I'm paying attention. And, they got some interesting young players, and Pop is going to be out of there soon. So they're going kind of through a transition phase.
Is this his farewell tour? Did I forget that?
It feels that. Yeah, it is. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, yeah, he'll never, I guess, actually say that because he doesn't want to have a big fanfare as he does his last tour around the league, I guess. But yeah, it's got to be time, right?
Well, when they drafted Josh Primo, that told me everything. I remember doing a Spurs-centric podcast, and that just shows me that they're looking into the future when you draft a player so young. And that was such a surprise draft pick for a team like the Spurs,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, yeah, this transition is certainly there, and I don't know if everyone's buying in as it is. I was sitting right near the bench and kind of trying to get a handle on what they're doing, and I don't know. It just didn't feel like a typical Spurs team, and it's weird because there are guys I like that on the team. I really like Derek White. I really like Keldon Johnson for sure, and then Lonnie Walker.
Lonnie Walker, yeah.
But it's not consistent. I can't quite figure out why they're not sustaining what the little bits and pieces that I have seeing, and then continue to build on that. It's got to be frustrating. So so there we go. So now Dejan. Then the question then becomes: will Becky Hammon take over? I mean, I think so, right? It sounds like it would be her best shot at getting a head coaching job, and it sounds like people, it's going to be her turn sooner than later. So they've been grooming her, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's going to get the first opportunity. I'm sure she's going to get the first interview. And it's interesting you said you saw their body language in person. That's the one thing that I think is so much easier to have an analysis on when you're about body language when you're in person. It's a lot easier than watching on the TV screen.
Well, it's funny because I've had this discussion with a lot of NBA scouts and who, spend 300 days of the year on the road. It's got to be the most brutal job of all time. And I often say, I don't think that you need to actually be in those arenas to do what they do. Now, always, usually the argument is then, well, I need to be able to see the calls or hear the calls so I can tell the other team what the calls are. But invariably, they get a seat in the arena that's not anywhere close to hearing that anymore. They've gotten smart. They put them farther away. So I almost feel like you can do almost all that scouting work from a computer anywhere you are. And then maybe some phone calls and talking to the coaches about it.
Yeah, I think the body language is the biggest thing. It's a lot easier to tell in person with the body language. But in terms of basketball skill level, you're right. I think it's the same on a computer than in person. I don't think, sometimes athleticism pops a little bit more when you're in person. I remember seeing Jeremy Grant in person. He's even more athletic in person than he is on the TV screen. And I think there are certain players like that.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I mean, yeah, I guess so. Athletically, although it seems to me especially if you're going to do any kind of scouting where you want to, diagram the plays the other team's running, you can't do that live, watching in an arena. I need to be able to jump back 10 seconds on my TiVo and write it down and stop for a second and look. At least that's what I would have to do. I would have no idea if I had to draw up a play by hand with a notebook in live. I'm going to miss at least another possession while that's going on. So it's just a weird thing that the value that they put on having the people actually in the arenas, and part of it makes me just want to have everybody switch to being remote so that these scouts could have a more normal life. I just really feel bad for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, advanced scouts is the worst. You have to scout every other team. Oh my God, you're always on the road.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me at all. So, and anyhow, if I were a head coach in the NBA, I would not make people do that. I would say just, get on the, league pass and break it down for me. And anything I might need to know about in person, I can make a phone call. So, and then, of course, that is different than trying to figure out if you want to draft a player. But again, there's a lot of that, gumshoe investigation stuff can happen, without needing to be chasing the player all over the country, different games. But
they'll go ask your kindergarten teacher about you. For sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, by the way, it was funny. My dad had a birthday party in Chicago a few weeks ago, and he invited my second grade teacher. So that was fun. She was there. and a bunch of my friends were there. So I'm like, hey, this is my second grade teacher. It was really funny to watch. So, yes.
Were you into – we're going to change the subject fast because I don't think the listeners want to hear about this all day. But were you into basketball in the second grade?
I don't think I was playing a ton in second grade. I went to a very, very small school that had maybe 20, 30 kids in a class.
Oh, okay.
The only sport we had was basketball. And so you were going to be into basketball no matter what. But like as far as playing, I don't think I got into it until like probably like third or fourth grade when I really started to play. And I lament that I never had any kind of structured AAU program to be part of back in the 80s. I didn't have that. So I had anything I learned, I kind of had to learn on my own, and then like through a random drill, back then, which would not have focused on individual instruction. I'm assuming that it was much different for you when you were growing up.
Yeah, well, I started playing around third grade. I mean, basketball camp was huge for me to learn the game. And obviously, we just learned the game playing in the playgrounds as well. It wasn't as monetized as it is now when it comes to youth. Like, obviously, I played in my leagues, but now, like, everything is like leagues and organized for the youth. It's just different now.
For sure.
From when I was a kid, yeah.
Well, let's go back to the NBA because I'm noticing some other questions here that might be interesting. So, first of all, pour one out for Bam Adebayo. That's just devastating news. If you haven't heard, I think he broke his thumb. No. What did he do? Did you hear what happened to him? No, or is it a knee? Jeez.
Jalen Suggs broke his thumb.
Jalen Suggs broke his thumb. They're not going to have surgery on it though, so maybe he can be back. But I'm sorry, Bam is a knee, right?
I think so.
Okay,
but I can't confirm. I have to fact check.
Well, if only we had some way to check that while we're talking injury. I just saw. Oh no, Bam Adebayo to have thumb surgery, so he also hurt his thumb.
Okay, so both of them.
Okay, that must have been what I was thinking of. So he needs surgery. That's going to be rough because is it his shooting hand? Not that he shoots that much anyway from the outside, but that's rough. That's really going to hurt Miami, who's already kind of dealing with some stuff. So there's a question about maybe John Wall to Miami, but certainly it was funny because people were talking about John Wall going oh my goodness gracious, somewhere else. But like his contract is so huge, I can't picture him.
Clippers maybe?
Oh, how would that work? Why? Well, I think Reggie Jackson's doing nicely. I don't think they need to, replace him or I suppose they could have John Wall off the bench.
I mean, John Wall is more like a pure point guard than Reggie, but I like Reggie's game a lot.
Yeah, and I think Reggie's doing pretty well. Though it's funny because I went to another game where, and maybe it was the Clippers or it was maybe it was the Heat, where he didn't do anything for like 3 quarters, and then you could see it all of a sudden. He's just like, "F it, I'm just gonna go off."
Yeah, he told me about that.
And he went off. Yeah. But at any rate, so I just think that John Wall's contract's going to be a little scary. I've never liked his game anyway. Really?
I really like his game. I really like his game, Coach Nick.
Really? Well, there was a moment like when they got to the playoffs, and I was like, okay, and he was hitting some threes, and he was making some better decisions, and I thought, okay, there was something building here. And then that kind of just soured very quickly in Washington after that. I don't even remember what year that was. Was that like 2016 maybe, him and
Something
Beal?
Like that, yeah.
And so Martin is telling us that Bam is out for 6 weeks. Okay. It's not terrible. And if you're going to get a thumb injury, you might as well get it now. I guess, in early November. Early end of November. But let's see here. So I don't know. I don't know if John Wall really has a home. What do you like about his game? Tell me.
Well, I think he has, at his peak, he had elite athleticism, elite IQ. And he just played that real point guard role that a lot of players don't play in the league anymore. So I really like how he sets the table. Obviously, he wasn't the greatest shooter, but he could knock that down. He wasn't like a Ben Simmons or something like that, So I just felt like the combination of him just being a point guard, elite athleticism, elite IQ, a really smart player. I just like the way he plays basketball.
All right. I mean,
would you agree with that, or would you disagree?
I mean, I don't know about the IQ. I don't know about decision making. I think, I don't know. And by the way, it's been a little while since I've seen John Wall playing any meaningful games to even remember. But I know that the shooting thing was an issue for me mostly because you could do like the Rajon Rondo defense on him. But you're right. I mean, he's an elite athlete. And that speed he has coming down the court, generally in any one season, you're going to have maybe like 5 of those guys in the league who you're not stopping in the open court with one guy. And he was certainly that guy for a little bit of that run, or for several years. So
you don't see pure point guards with that type of athleticism often.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you don't see anybody with that kind of athletic ability. And it was
Yeah,
funny. I
that's true.
remember I interviewed him about it too, because I was like, well, did you do any kind of special training or anything like that, like being track? And he's like, no, I just go out there and I don't think he has any sense of like running mechanics or whatever. He has whatever that is. But I gotta tell you, like when he shoots out of the cannon. It's almost like it's almost violent watching it. It makes we have to recoil because it's so fast, and it's like that. Is it X1? Is that the button you hit for speed?
I think so. But when he actually toned it down a little bit, that's when he really got better. Actually, you have to tone it down a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I think he's just not the same athlete right now. And I don't know if he'll ever get back to it, but I hope he does.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame that he got stuck in a situation where they're going to sort of just like bury him and not play him. They told him that. He understood that.
He agreed, right, at one point.
But I obviously, after enough games and whatever, you're going to get itchy to do something. So we'll see. I just don't know.
Well, now they want him to come off the bench, and he doesn't want to come off the bench, but they're willing to do that. So that's the disagreement now, from what I'm hearing.
Well, that's another interesting issue then, because if he's not willing to come off the bench in Houston, then would he come off the bench anywhere else he goes? And maybe he would say, well, I'll go off the bench if it's a good team, but I don't know. I don't know what he might bring to the table for a good team, unless there's a severe injury that someone needed to cover for. Now, Bam is not necessarily that injury because he's a big guy, and Wall doesn't replace that. But and
they have Kyle; they're fine at that position.
Yeah, and I'm sure he doesn't want to go to Orlando now that Suggs is out. So, I feel that he's probably going to end up being stuck in limbo, which is crazy because then him and Simmons could go work out together, I guess.
Well, Kentucky's own Demarcus Cousins, he got a deal with Milwaukee. That's pretty cool.
He did. When's the last time he played in the game? Do we know that? Because again, if only we could look this up. I'll tell you. Let's see the game logs. Actually, he played last year. He did play last year with the Clippers.
That's right.
Yeah, a little bit. So I kind of forgot about that. But yeah,
he didn't get amazing amounts of playing time, but he played here and there.
Yeah, even in the playoffs, he got 4 minutes here, 11 minutes there, a little bit, but maybe half the games. So we'll see. I mean, I always write off Cousins, and he always ends up doing something that he could still help. And certainly the Bucks
he has a really good feel for basketball. He
does. He absolutely does, and he's always been that way. And I can remember him as a rookie coming in and just being blown away watching him in summer league. Just like high post passing was. And remember back then with the Kings, they were running the Princeton high post still. So
we didn't know who was better, him or AD. Remember that?
Oh wow, yeah. Somebody else just reminded me of a take I had about AD and somebody else coming out of Kentucky. Oh, Nerlens Noel. I might have said Nerlens Noel coming out of Kentucky could be better than AD, and that would have been a while ago. And gosh, that was wrong. But then again, there was something about Nerlens Noel before he got that terrible knee injury that he had something different motor-wise and movement quality-wise that I really liked that I see as an issue with Davis. Davis is still a little bit top-heavy or high center of gravity, and it doesn't have that quick twitch.
AD is just not moving the same as his former self right now. And
okay,
he gained some weight. Yeah.
So I'm telling you, Nerlens Noel, there was some evidence coming out of Kentucky that he could have a nice little jump shot. He could put the ball on the ground a little bit. Like there was stuff like that, and I figured if he, with his movement quality, which is quicker and more explosive than AD, would have translated even better. But once he went down with the knee injuries, like maybe the development just stopped as well, and they're just trying to get him healthy. So anyway. Maybe. But to get back to Demarcus, so yeah, we'll see. But right now the Bucks are 13-8, so actually they're playing a lot better. They've won 7 in a row because obviously before that they had a losing record 6-8. So I think it's time to take a visit with the Bucks and to do a video on them. I've been trying to get a video done on the Wizards.
That would be a great video.
I told you this last week or 2 weeks ago. I was going to do it before the season started, and then for some reason I didn't, and then they had a great start. Now they're kind of struggling with the success a little bit, but
I think going back real quick to the Milwaukee Bucks, I think a big reason they signed DeMarcus was because Lopez is injured right now, and they want to see how he comes back. They definitely need a backup big, so I guess DeMarcus fills that role.
He does. Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that, like, Lopez is this sort of linchpin kind of guy? Certainly not in the last 7 games, so they don't not needing to have him there. They're winning anyway.
Yeah.
I would have expected Giannis to just sort of go on a dominant run. Like, hey, I got to carry this team, and we get him the wins, and he wasn't doing that. But again, I haven't checked in. I got to check in with them and see like what this is about, because obviously, actually, I'm kind of curious right now. In this 7-game win streak, I'll tell you right now, they've beaten. They beat the Lakers. They beat OKC. They beat the Magic twice in a row. They beat the Pistons. They beat the Nuggets, and then the Pacers. So okay, that's an NBA gentleman's 7-game winning streak, if you will. When you throw in Thunder and the Magic and the Pistons in there, that's the thing about the NBA is it only takes a few games before you can find a game that will help your team get out of its losing ways.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm sorry, Pistons fans, if I'm throwing fire on you guys. But what was it? Someone was just telling me about Dwayne Casey, what he was saying about offense. And I was just like, it just sounded like such a dinosaur thing. I'll think about it. My mind is mush these days. What is time? We're stuck, hiding from COVID and whatnot. My mind is sometimes it works. You know what's weird sometimes, Combo? Like, there are times I can't remember like what I was talking about an hour ago about Dwayne Casey, but I can tell you like what Ben Poquet's number was on his jersey for the Cleveland Cavaliers in like 1985. Like, I don't understand that. What's that?
Why is that, you think?
This could be a whole pod about how the brain functions and how it stores things. I don't know. And maybe that would actually, once we discover that, we can become much better coaches, because we'll say things the right way that will stick in people's minds. Like, does this ever happen to you? Like, I can remember a very specific lesson from science class in 7th grade, and I don't remember anything else from the 7th grade at all. But I can remember one specific thing that she taught us about trying to divide a number to get to 0. And we kept doing it. We thought we were getting closer and closer, but spoiler alert, you can never get to 0. You always get closer and closer, but you can never get to 0. And that realization has stuck with me to this day. So figure that out.
I feel like sometimes when like you've done a specific paper or you really like dug in on a topic, those are the things you remember, like that you put some work into maybe.
Yeah. Something. All right, well, let's get back to the NBA, because this is what the show is about, supposedly. And yes, I was very wrong. I'm assuming that Straightway is commenting about my Nerlens Noel take on versus AD. But getting back to the point, like Giannis, I'm concerned that Giannis didn't do even in the first 14 games, like just didn't seem to be able to take over to the point where he could will his team to victory. And that's what you would like to see out of a player like that. And so that said, they're coming off of a title. Perhaps they're just trying to pace themselves and not go too crazy, but they don't want to fall too low into the standings where they're going to have to really battle their way back out of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the sample size of this season, like let's say you never watched NBA basketball before and you only watched it this year, I think the 3 best players would be Jokic, Durant, and Steph Curry, right? I mean, I don't know if Giannis would be in that just for this season, even though he's playing well.
Yeah. Well, let me look at his numbers here, because that's not that's not. Oh my God, I lost the team.
And some might think Demar Derozan's in there from the way he's been playing it.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that you would have to say is like because he doesn't stretch the floor enough, although he's doing it a little bit. I mean, the dude is just lights out, but so is KD. I mean, his numbers are unreal as well. But listen, Steph is also, leading this team to, up until last night, the number 1 seed in the West, and really just looking like a number 1 team that would be destined to at least make the Western Conference Finals. So I would have to give it to Steph at this point. Now, that said, how much do we take from one game last night against a really good defense that was very well prepared? If you watch the video, or if you haven't seen it yet, you'll see that the preparation that the Suns put in really was focused on basically ignoring Draymond and getting in the way of everybody else. And it really does cause problems. Now, obviously, for the first 16 or 18 games of the season, that wasn't an issue much. But they hadn't really played a team that really had schemed for this clearly before they played them. So what do you think about that? Is that ultimately going to be their biggest Achilles heel? Achilles heel?
Yeah, it wasn't only Draymond, too. They were ignoring Gary Payton, too, as well. But
do you know what Gary Payton shoots from 3?
No, I don't.
36%. So where is this whole narrative? Like he cannot shoot, doesn't shoot. Do you know how many it takes a game?
How many?
1.3. But do you know how many minutes he plays?
How many?
Like 11. Let me check this because I was looking at it earlier.
Well, they were ignoring him last night.
Yeah, and he missed he missed them. But the point being that, like, and I guess was that
some players shoot worse when they're ignored though.
Yeah, no,
like
it's
when they
true.
have all that time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, J.R. Smith, I think, was the poster child for that one. But, he plays 14 minutes a game, and he's taking 1.3 attempts, which is, not nothing because he's not playing a lot of minutes. So I would argue he should take a few more because even if it goes down to like 33%, it's still enough to be like, okay, we can't just completely ignore the guy. And just hanging around Steph, I would imagine, watching him shoot, maybe he'll just get better by osmosis.
Yeah, do you think that the Suns locked him down or that just Steph had an off night, or a combination of both?
And hey, Adam, I'm good. How are you? I'm just kind of keeping myself apprised of the comments. Wait, the question was it Steph imploding or was it the Suns shutting him down?
Exactly, or a combination of both.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Once they double him off of any kind of pick and roll, he's going to give the ball up. And, it's not always easy for him to get the ball back, even though they have automatics for that kind of thing where he might drive, kick, and then replace. So there were plenty of moments where they were switching a lot, being really physical, and forcing the ball out of his hands. So that's definitely all for on the Suns. But there were other times when he was just going too fast. Like he missed a three on a beautiful behind the back move, but he kind of got going a little too fast, nose too far in front of the toes, lost his balance for a second, had to rush the shot over Ayton, who had a nice contest though, and so that didn't go in. I think he airballed another one as well. So I think he was just kind of going too fast. But then this weird thing that's been plaguing the Warriors ever since Steve Kerr got there are the turnovers. The turnovers, it's almost like it becomes a sickness and everyone gets infected by it. And they start throwing the ball away. I mean, listen, it was a close game all the way to the end. You can argue that if Juan Toscano-Anderson doesn't throw the ball away 6 times in 5 minutes or whatever he did, maybe the Warriors win anyway.
Yeah. As I said before, I just think like if Steph shoots even at a decent level for him, I mean, they win that game. So that's really what it comes down to. It'll just be interesting to see if the Suns could hold up to something like this for more than one game in a 7-game series.
Yes, but by the way, I cannot wait for this to be the Western Conference Finals matchup. That would be an amazing series because you'd have a lot of adjustments back and forth, and obviously Coach Kerr is going to have to deal with the Draymond thing and keep him from sort of being stationary in the dunker spot or by the post and not getting the ball, because if they don't give him the ball and he's part of, where his passing can come into play, then they just ignore him, and it's hard for everybody else to get anything going. The other thing is that if Clay comes back and he is whatever percent, and they get, I think Wiseman ends up being a really big key to this because he's the kind of guy that can kind of move a little bit with Ayton and has, I don't think that Looney handles Ayton's, strength and quickness very well. And so I feel like that might be something they can get 10, 12 minutes of Wiseman to make Ayton work a little bit harder. That also could be a very big difference. So it's almost hard to know. But here's the thing. In 2 days from now, we get a rematch. And these guys, I don't think are going to take it. They're not going to bench anybody. Like I kind of feel like in the past we've seen these big games coming up, and then invariably one of the best players just ends up sitting for rest. Does that feel that way to you?
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. And it'll be interesting. Like, let's say the Warriors lose a bat again. Do you think they try and make a trade at some point during the season? Maybe trade some of their young talent in for a veteran big who could kind of like replace some of Looney's minutes?
I don't know because, chemistry is a very, fickle thing. And I don't know if they want to disrupt a lot of that by, bringing somebody completely new. It would be interesting. I don't know how that might work. So
maximize the Splash Brothers timeline with Draymond. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they are honestly, they are going in 2 different directions. Like they're developing these young players and they got guys who they want to win now with.
Yeah, but by the way, how good was Jordan Poole last night? I mean, he was awesome, and I don't envy that decision that Steve Kerr is going to have to make when Clay comes back because, obviously the decision is Poole has to go to the bench because they're not going to bench Wiggins, I suppose, and so that's just going to be rough.
You can't bench Wiggins because of defense.
Right.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, and he's just the guy. Like, obviously, Poole would accept that role better, so they're gonna, have him do it. I suppose Poole can still get almost the same amount of minutes coming off the bench anyway. So maybe that doesn't really affect him that much. But he was just awesome last night, and kind of kept them in the game, waiting for Steph to kind of get right and figure some things out. So it's funny because we're kind of talking about, I almost feel like we're talking about the Warriors as if they're like on the precipice of just, giving up on the season and just tanking or something.
Right. I guess that was my comment about a trade in the future. If they,
I would hate to see it because you want to be able to extend after Steph's career. And I believe Wiseman can be an all-star. So it would be great to have him, and continue that whole process going forward.
And Kuminga too.
Yeah, Kuminga.
As well. I mean, I watched him in Summer League, man. He was impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what also hurt the Warriors is having Damian Lee out because of the birth of his son. And so they had to play Chiozza more, who, didn't really do that well. And I think Lee has a little bit more experience. But the next level of that, which I said right off the bat in the video, was that the Warriors had a lot of players who had never really played in a playoff atmosphere regular season game like that before. So you see guys like Bjelica, who looked just out of it. JTA was another guy who was throwing the ball away like crazy. Chiozza looked a little bit like, deer in the headlights. I'm forgetting. Obviously, he didn't want. Maybe it's why he didn't want to put Kuminga in there. And even a guy like Damian Lee, who's got experience in over a number of years, I don't know if he since he's gotten there, they haven't been good like this. So that's a whole other notch they got to put under the belt. Maybe last night was what they needed, and now we'll see. Friday they'll actually they'll play better.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of pieces on this team with no playoff experience. So we got to see how this goes in the playoffs. Like, the playoffs are a lot different than the regular season. For
sure. We have a question because we can pivot to the Cavs because we can talk about that a little bit. I've been doing a deep dive into them because how big is the question from Starscream is how big is the Bam injury for Miami because they're getting destroyed by the Cavs right now. As we're recording this, the score is, let's go to the scores. Let's see here. Where are we? In the fourth quarter. Wait, where did it go? In the end of the third quarter, the Cavaliers are up 81-63. So that's not good, Bob. What do you think? What do we think about that? I mean, how devastating is that going to be for the Heat's fortunes? Do we get that far last time? I don't think we talked about that.
No, expound on that.
Well, I mean, obviously, Bam makes their whole offense go. They run so much of their offense through the high post through him.
Yeah,
and without
he's kind of like their Jokic. In a way, right?
In a way. And then plus defensively, he's everywhere. And they have a good defense outside of that. They have other good defensive players, but he's a good linchpin. And as a result, they have to start Dedmon, who we've seen, fits and starts from Dedmon of like, whoa, this is something good, but he's not been able to stick with a team, which tells you something. And so far, he actually is, 4 for 11 from the field for 9 points and 10 rebounds, which is helpful for them. But I don't feel great about the Heat. They were not very deep to begin with at all. And this will not help them. And if they have any hopes to remain competitive, they're the ones who are going to probably have to try and figure. Like they would have preferred to have signed Boogie somehow if they knew that he was available and this whole thing happened.
Yeah, they've been interesting, this team. I mean, Duncan has struggled since he signed that contract extension. Obviously, Tyler Hero is playing better, but I think Kyle is doing such a great job of pushing pace, and that really changed everything for them on offense.
Yeah, you know what? Every time you want to write off Kyle Lowry, and then there he is doing the same thing he's been doing for years and years and years. It's really impressive to me. I mean, I'm the same height as he is, and I have no idea how he gets a shot off ever. And he's like, because I don't know, they probably list him at 6 feet. He's 6 feet at most. And
is he really that short?
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to him several times, and I look him right at the eye, and that's my question to him. It's like, how do you even see the basket when they're closing out like that on those shots? Because he'll go to the hoop too and shoot from inside the lane. That's crazy to me. It's one thing, okay, hop into a three coming around a screen, whatever. Maybe that's open, but I don't know. But we have a super chat.
He's such a disruptive player.
Yes, we have a super chat from Buzzer Beater. Thank you so much. That just popped up in my feed, and this is another good question because I'm going to try and do a video ASAP. I'm already afraid that the Kemba benching storyline is already over with and no one cares. But I can't remember. Can you, the last time a starting player who was signed to a big contract comes into a new team and then doesn't make it 20 games without the coach literally having to say you are benched, not playing at all? Can you remember a situation like this?
No, but it's interesting with him and Blake, and obviously from the beginning of the season, I saw Blake was really struggling shooting the basketball. I know they're two totally different situations, but I think in any other era, these two guys are still playing and they're not totally out of the rotation. I don't know if it's analytics, I don't know if it's how we look at the game these days, but I think they would get more of a chance in any other era.
That's interesting. I mean, well, I mean, other eras were also defensive oriented in a way, but the other eras didn't have the kind of analytics. Like the numbers are just, they don't lie. The Knicks are terrible with Kemba on and much better with him off. And it's all related to defense. Now, obviously, there's 4 other guys with him. So I'm going to take a deep dive to see if that really was merited. Is it all his fault? Like, I guess what I'm going to probably do is, grab 100 buckets that were made while he was out there and grade them and see how many that were a result of Kemba doing something wrong. And if it's more than, I don't know, 20% of them, then we have something there. But what if it's less? What if it turns out that Kemba, he's just doing his job and it's not playing bad defense. It's just sort of dumb luck. That would be pretty frustrating too.
Kemba has never been known for his defense, but I never thought so. Like that might not be a great match with Coach Tibbs, who's all about defense. Yeah. But I never really, honestly, I never imagined this happening. Like I thought he would play great in New York. I thought the New York energy would help him. I thought he would help the New York energy. This is really surprising. Do you think there's a chance it could go back to him playing, or like? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, this happens so often to especially younger players in the league who think that they're done.
But as we just said, we never seen anything like this before.
That is true. That for someone in his position, But I mean, I've had that conversation with NBA players. I'm like, it looks like they're going to be out of the league. I'm like, don't get your head down. Something crazy is going to happen, and you'll see. And the next thing you know, they're starting. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So you can never say never, and I doubt it's going to be permanent. I know that he's going to get another chance. Kemba is just too good not to get a chance, and certainly to run the second team or something. So, unless he did something really, really bad. But Kemba, as far as I've always heard, has been a great teammate and very respectful of the coaching. So.
Right. He's known to be a fantastic human being. And I'm from New York, so obviously, I know people who know him. So everybody talks about how great of a person he is. But do you feel like that could work against him? We could tell Kemba that he's not going to play and he's not going to be disruptive.
You mean, is the implication that he needs to be disruptive to get back in the lineup?
Well, no, it's not the implication, but it's kind of easier to bench a guy that's not going to cause problems if you bench him.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, that sucks if that's the case. It's like bench him if you got to bench him, and don't bench him if you don't need to bench him, and don't do it just because it seems easy. But again, I would have thought it would be a demotion.
You could never do this. You couldn't do this with Russ, right? Not saying Russ is a bad guy, but you could never take him out of the rotation and then be okay with it.
Never. No,
that's what I'm saying,
and yet that's not the worst suggestion. I mean, listen, he's been playing. There are moments in every game where Russ is like Russ, right? But then there are moments where he's also like Russ, and that's going to be the real question here. Because I'm looking at Kemba, to me, it would have been he would have gone to the second unit, and they would have played him instead of 30 minutes a game. They played him, 20. But he, and they were already kind of doing that. If you look at the game log up until that point, he was going, 26 and 30, and then all of a sudden it went down to 20, 17. So he was already getting pared down in his, he's still starting, but getting pared down in the minutes. So to go from starting to just nothing is really extreme in my mind. I would have thought at least they give him a run as 18 minutes off the game, as a third or fourth guard. But I cannot wait. I'm going to dive into that as soon as I finish this Cleveland Cavaliers video, which I thought we could talk about for a minute because so I got on Twitter yesterday and I had no idea that there were so many Evan Mobley stands out there. I mean, it was vicious, blood in the water.
Guy's pretty good, Coach Nick.
Okay. You know what? Here's my problem. So he is really good. I saw, plenty of good energy on defense and lots of possessions where he was, making, blocks and getting rebounds and contesting, but I also saw a lot of plays where he was getting scored on and he's not strong enough when guys are getting in their body and then pushing him off and then just going right over him. So I guess my problem was I had my normal NBA player hat on when I was watching this and I guess I forgot to look at this as a rookie who's, 20, even though I know I looked at that and said, well, how many years did he play? He only played 1 year in college, I think, right?
Yep.
And so, So I guess with that in mind, I was too harsh, and hopefully I'll live it down because there are some.
What did you say, Coach Nick?
I just said it looks to me if people want to consider him for Rookie of the Year, I think he is the Rookie of the Year.
Well, he's been injured, so that's going to be hard, right? For him
Mobley,
to win Rookie of the Year.
he is, but he came back, the game before, and he had, he was only out for like 4 games.
What I'm saying is at this point, there's just rookies that have played more than him, so it's going to be tough. But
well, my take on it was it felt like it was one of those things where they're looking at the box scores and like, oh, look at he's doing nicely, then he's going to be the Rookie of the Year, and everyone was yelling at me saying, well, it's not even the box score for the reason why we like him and think he's going to be that way, but in relation to rookies, 14 and 8 or whatever he's averaging, that's really good for a rookie.
Well,
and he's getting a lot more opportunities than any other place because he was in a really good situation where there's no pressure to win. They're just, and here's the thing. The reason why I wanted the video to begin with was that they're starting 3 7-footers. Then that's more interesting to me than anything else. But the bottom line was I have plenty of evidence of him, doing really nicely. And I have plenty of evidence where he needs to get a lot better with his footwork. And both these things can be true. And I just was probably a little bit too harsh in sort of just dismissing people who want to, say he's, he should be in the Rookie of the Year. I mean, of course, he should be the top 5 Rookie of the Year. I mean, that seems reasonable enough. And the other question then is who else is in front of him? And that's the next thing. I haven't done a deep dive like this for the other guys, and so I need to do that next.
I mean, I was a lot higher on Scotty Barnes than consensus, and I was about with consensus with Evan Mobley. But when it comes to, so I think Scotty Barnes is a great candidate for Rookie of the Year. With Evan Mobley, though, I don't even think the stats tell the whole story of who he is. I think that's probably why people were upset with you. Just his fluidity on defense, the way he can slide his feet, change his shots. And he's just one of those players that I think other stars are going to want to play with. Like, he doesn't get in others' way. He's a lob threat. He's going to have an improved jump shot. And he's just such a fluid athlete. It looks like it's so fun to play with and could fit with other bigs, like as we've seen. He's playing with 2 other 7-footers. So
yeah, okay, yeah. And I apologize. And I deleted the tweet, and I tried to. I tried
Coach
to,
Nick, you shouldn't have deleted the tweet. You didn't have to delete the tweet.
Oh, well, listen, believe me, it was worth it because, I had friends of mine on Twitter like screaming at me. And I was like, no one said he was bad. No one said he wasn't good at all. What was the
tweet?
The tweet was basically what I said. It was it feels to me that people who want to anoint him as Rookie of the Year are only looking at the box score production. But meaning like maybe he's not as good as everyone is thinking he is because what I'm seeing is there's a lot of work to be done. But you know what? Every rookie has a lot of work to be done. So that was my only problem is I needed to make. I didn't factor that in, and for some weird reason in a moment of weakness.
How are you consuming the Evan Mobley content? Were you watching mostly highlights? Were you watching?
Well, so I'm because by the way, someone was like, "Oh, you're just going on Synergy and watching like the defensive clips," which. So offensively, I certainly did that with Synergy. That's a great way of looking at the offensive game. And I watched probably 150 clips of him on offense. I think that's pretty good. I think Synergy has been, for 200 and something total. So watching, over 60% of his clips it gives you a pretty good sense of what the guy is on offense. Defensively, I did both. I did watch a bunch of the clips that they attributed to him, but then I also started studying when all 3 of them were out there together, Jared Allen, him, and Lauri Markkanen, because I wanted to see how the 7-footer thing was going and why that was working so well. So I kind of did a lot of both and saw a whole bunch of, of footage that way too. So I've been doing this for a long time. I feel like I'm pretty good about knowing how to watch this film and know what these players can do and they can't do. Maybe, and listen, blocks are really important, and they're also very much like we talked about before.
Also changing shots, Coach Nick, not only the blocks.
Okay, right, because then someone's like, well, he's contested the 3rd most shots in the league, and I'm like, okay, 264. So
crazy radius, Coach Nick. He has a crazy radius.
He does, and he's sort of like, it doesn't have a low center of gravity, so he's not exactly explosive that way, but it was so long. I saw clips where he made up for the times he was getting beat because he can just take half a step and still be right there to contest. And I wasn't even so sure if the stat was right about contesting shots because it's is he really contesting 15 a game? That seems like a lot considering that there's other players on the floor too. But I went through the Orlando game and I counted I think 8 contests in the first half alone, which, granted that kind of would tell you, okay, he probably had at least 8 in the second half, and there's your 15, 16 a game. So I suppose it's what he's doing. So yeah, he is good. For some reason, I had my judgmental hat on for a guy who, should, I guess I was thinking he should be older and more experienced than he is.
Maybe he's that good that you're holding him to a higher standard.
Yeah. Well, sometimes guys get a lot of hype for the wrong reasons, and that, I guess I was tuning into that to some degree. But listen, I don't think Evan Mobley is going to tell you that he has a lot of work to do. I don't think he thinks that he's, ready to be an all-star yet. I mean, that's not, I don't think he has any delusions there.
I think another thing that people like about Evan Mobley is that it's hard for a rookie to be a plus defender in the NBA, and he's already a plus defender and even more in some people's opinions. So
yeah, I mean, people want to say
that's really encouraging. And him and Scotty Barnes are like that, and Davion Mitchell's another plus defender. So some of these rookies are really impressive as defenders, which we really haven't seen before. Even Cade is a plus defender. So there's a lot of good defenders in this draft.
And Cade is the guy who was the highest on, and he's starting to come around a little bit better. And
a lot better, Coach Nick. A lot better.
A lot better. And I just feel like he's playing for a caveman, and that's that doesn't help him either. I feel like there's if Cade was playing on OKC or he was just playing on the Rockets, like I think he'd already be better. But he's stuck in a weird situation where they got some guys who are vets and some guys, and they can't quite figure out what they want to do with the season. But we have a couple more super chats. Let's take care of those because those are always the most important for everybody. Buzzer beater, thank you. This is going to be a tough question, and I'm going to have to kind of root back into the deep recesses of my brain to remember. He asks, can you guys compare Hubie Brown's 80s Knicks shock troops to the current Knicks second unit? Now, growing up in Chicago as a Bulls fan, I mean, I certainly was aware of the Knicks and what they were doing. Now, the Knicks and Bulls rivalry was, in the late part of the 80s after Hubie Brown was gone. So, do you remember which players were the shock troops on the Hubie Brown's Knicks?
Well, did they have Bill Cartwright?
Yeah, but he wasn't part of the. Oh, they want to compare that to the second unit. I mean, it was probably like Pat Cummings and Bill Cartwright and
Arnie Grunfeld or no? And
Ernie was probably out there and Bernard King.
Bernard King.
Yeah, if it's Bernard King, and then they had a guard, Rory Sparrow. I think was there.
Is he talking about that team's second unit or that?
No, I think he wants to compare the Hubie Brown's teams to the Knicks' current second unit. Because they come in and out, and that's another thing I kind of want to take a look at too. They come out, five at a time, pretty much, right? He's almost subbing whole units together.
I don't know. I don't know if Tibbs is like. I mean, obviously there's some guys that love playing for him, but he doesn't seem like the easiest guy to play for, right?
No, not at all.
He does like a lot of interesting stuff. I know, obviously, D Rose loves playing for him, and Taj Gibson, but I mean, he seems like a tough guy to play for.
Yeah, and it might wear on you, the constant, bellowing or whatever. I mean, it's funny because Chris Paul, it could arguably be the same way. He might wear on his teammates too because he demands, such attention to detail in every play. Like, they caught him on the TV. I saw, I think it was Bridges. It might have been a mistake, turned the ball over, and he was just jawing at him. The game was going fine, everything was well. They were executing, and he was still just like all over him, and that's what the Chris Paul standard is. And Tom Thibodeau's the same way. But you have coming off the bench. I mean, I'm just going to look at the Knicks right now. So it's Noel, Burks, Rose, Gibson, and Quickly. I mean, I love Quickly. Wish he'd get more minutes and continue. I mean, he's not doing awesome, but I just for some reason when I see a young guy come in who's unintimidated by the NBA itself, I always gravitate towards guys like that. But they're highly effective. And by the way, that also could be the thing with maybe Kemba not working well. Like when you get subbed out like the way the rotations are, that could hurt your game. And that could be part of it.
Especially when you're an older player. Kemba's not super old, but he's coming off injuries.
He's old. He's an old 31. What is he? Oh, yeah, 31. We have another super chat. So this is from BB Coach JW33. All friends of the breakdown. Thank you guys for being part of this. Could the Warriors' weakness down low come back to haunt them in the playoffs against teams like the Suns? Well, without question, Ayton killed them in the second half. I think he had 15 points. And they were trying to play zone a little bit. They had to go away from zone because he was sealing off so well. in the lane for 5-6 seconds at a time. By the way, they were awful at calling 3 seconds against him. I maybe at least 3 times I saw that for scores alone that he got, or a foul and 2 scores. But yeah, I mean, listen, Looney is terrific, and he's been terrific in a lot of these games so far. That might be enough, especially if they can reload with 80% Clay and Wiseman giving them something. I think that they'd be. It's not gonna end their season. I don't think. What do you think?
Well, things do get you need good bigs to play in the NBA, even though the NBA has gone away from the big men. I remember in the bubble, what Bam did to the Celtics was just disrespectful. He made it look like he was playing against high school kids. So, I mean, imagine if the Heat were to make it to the finals, or even Giannis make it to the finals and the Warriors make it there. Those guys will have a field day against that team. If DeAndre Ayton could be problems for them, how about those two,
Yeah, that's a problem. How are they going to guard those guys? Okay, very, very good point. Now the Bucks have to deal with the other side of the equation too. But
yeah, of course. It's like the Shaq thing. How is Shaq,
Yeah, I mean, let's see. You have to throw in the starting lineup. Who's guarding Giannis in the starting lineup of the Warriors? I guess it's going to have to be Draymond. That's not terrible for them.
Giannis, yeah. I mean, they probably wouldn't even put Giannis on Draymond.
No, but they put Draymond on Giannis.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now, if Giannis goes back and just can't shoot at all from the outside like we had seen in years past, then they could actually put Looney on him and just give him, 15 feet of space.
Yeah, I guess so. But he would still get a running start right at Looney.
Yeah.
Probably still get some buckets. Yeah.
Yeah. We have some more super chats. Let's get to these. All right. Well, Aldo, let's see here. Hubie's 80s Knicks aren't remembered by a lot of people. That is true. And let's see if he actually, let me jump over. Oh, that was it. Okay. Buzzer Beater came back to us for another super chat. Thank you so much. That was unnecessary, but I thank you to tell us what the shock troops were. Are you ready? It was Ernie Grunfeld. So there you go. Good call. Len Elmore. Wow. Daryl Walker.
Yeah, I think he's in media now, Len Elmore.
Oh yeah, he does all the college games. He's great.
Yeah.
Daryl Walker, Ken Bannister, and Louis Orr.
Was Darryl Walker the one that was in the dunk contest one year?
No, isn't that Kenny Walker? That's Kenny Skywalker.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
this is pretty good for these guys playing before I think I was probably alive. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, I remember this. I was 10, 11, whatever, but I remember.
You could definitely. I wish we had a question about the Van Gundy Knicks. I would know a little bit more, but that is a great question.
Yeah. So obviously, with the 5 Ernie Grunfeld, Len Elmore, Daryl Walker, Ken Bannister, and Louis Orr, I mean, that must have been a really fun team where they spaced the floor a little bit. They could shoot it. I mean, Daryl Walker could shoot. Louis Orr could shoot. I can't remember Ken Bannister's game. It's not coming to me right now.
Can Dan Grunfeld shoot?
Ernie Grunfeld.
Oh,
Dan Grunfeld might be the brother.
His son. Dan's his son.
Ernie could score the rock. Ernie played with the starter with Bernard King. Ernie and Bernie was the duo at.
That's right. They had a 30 for 30 on it.
Yeah, at Louisville. No, where did they go? Somewhere in the South, a little bit. God, I feel.
But I felt like in college, Ernie was a little bit closer to star level than obviously was in the NBA, right? They were more they were more of a duo in college than they were in the NBA.
Ernie was probably more like Christian Laettner in college, and then get to the pros and did not have that kind of same success. But then he became the GM.
Well, actually, Christian Laettner made an All-Star game. That's pretty.
Did he really?
Right? He did. Look it up.
Oh, okay. Well, good for you, Christian. I mean, listen, it was always a little bit weird to me that he could be that good, and then just not be able to find that kind of, JJ Redick is a little bit similar too, because JJ Redick was just was dominating, and then it took him years to kind of get settled and figure out how to fit in.
I wonder if Timmy's going to get a chance from Gonzaga.
I watched a few of those games in the tournament last year, and I don't know if I see it. I don't know. The way he plays now, I just don't see how that would work in the pros. So I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, I mean, I had that feeling about Luka Garza, but I thought Timmy might have a little bit better of a chance than Luka.
I got to check him out too. Oh, I'm sorry. Then Luka Doncic?
No, Luka Garza. He's in the league now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The Pistons. Yeah.
Right. Excuse me. Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll see. And then the guy they have now, Holmgren. What's his first name?
Oh yeah, he's gonna be good. Chet.
Doesn't he just look really awkward to you though?
He's like 7'3", and he can handle the ball, and he can shoot the ball, and he's a great rim protector, and he can slide his feet. I think he's gonna be pretty good.
I don't know. I mean, he's so thin, and it's just like it just looks awkward to me. But I need to watch more.
Well, when you're 7'3" and you move like that, it's kind of unicornish.
I guess. Right. I don't know. I need to before I reserve judgment. I want to see some more because I know I saw some highlights.
They're going to go at you like the Evan Mobley thing.
I know.
You better be careful.
I mean, I've seen a few highlights from the year before, like this young guy is so tall, he can do a crossover and pull up or whatever. I'm like, okay, but it's a lot different than doing that like in the NBA level or. But obviously he's got a ways to go before he gets there.
Coach Nick, you're quite the skeptic.
I guess I am. But listen, if a player catches my fancy, then I'm all in. I'm a big fan, and I want to make sure that they get a lot of hype. So, we'll see. We'll see. Write this down. Like in a few years, the Evan Mobley thing, we'll find out. I think it's 50-50 where he goes, whether or not he goes on to have a great career.
No, Coach Nick, it's more than 50-50. He's going to be good, man. I'm telling you.
We'll see. I mean, listen, if you're talking about getting to the next level, like on the offensive end, I mean, the guy traveled. I mean, by the way, he is already getting the respect from the referees. He travels so much, and they don't call it. And I was like going through this, looking like, what is happening here? Listen,
I think I'm pulling up this last bit of this conversation and putting it on Instagram. This was a good one, Coach Nick.
All right, yeah,
you're a funny guy, Coach Nick.
But listen, how mmany clips are you going to need to see before you believe what I'm talking about with Mobley? Is it like 20,
I watch Evan
30?
Mobley. I watch it. I told you I was higher on Scotty. I was really high on Scotty Barnes, but I told you I was with consensus with Mobley. I saw him play a lot, but I think he's really doing a great job with the Cavs, and they're winning. And he's a big part of that as a rookie. He
is. But by the way, he's a very big part of that. But listen, Jared Allen is like just a monster on defense, erasing everything too.
Garland is nice, Coach Nick.
And Garland, Okoro is a really good defender too, and they're starting him now. Yeah. And guess what? Lauri Markkanen is playing defense really well too for the first time I've ever seen him do. He guarded Luka Doncic and was forcing him into terrible shots. Now that's not so new this year for whatever reason. I started that video a couple weeks ago about the Mavericks.
We talked about them, Coach Nick. Luka doesn't come into the season in shape. Anthony Davis does the same. Harden does the same. I mean, I know these guys are great players, but you just got to be honest. They don't come into the season in shape. And I know Harden had some injuries, but that's just I'm not expecting it from them anymore.
I guess, but at this point, Luka's on-off numbers are not good. And
no, I'm telling you, he's not the player he should be as of right now. And I was high on Luka since EuroLeague. I was saying he should be the number one pick. So I got to be honest,
No, I mean, listen, I was saying it that louder than you were back then. And it's just weird to me that he would be that ineffective having, have all this experience and, okay, we're already, over a month into the season. If he's not in shape now, then there's something else going on. And it's just the Jason Kidd effect. We'll have to look at that. I'm going to take a deeper dive. Because, by the way, I was doing it. They weren't running offense. There wasn't much to see, and that was kind of ugly. And I was going to do this whole video, but then I was like, they were 4-1. And then they were 7-3. They were winning games. And so I was like, well, this can't really be that much, even though people were kind of murmuring about it. Well, guess what? Now the record is, 10-9. Right? They've only won 4 of the last 10.
That's a similar record to the Lakers, right?
The Lakers are 12-11, but guess what? LeBron James just tested positive for COVID. Will be out a lot of games, more games.
Well, you know what you should do a video on if what's happening with the Lakers is really Coach Vogel's fault, because that's been the narrative. So you can take a deep dive into that. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's all everyone hates the lineups. I think that's the big thing for him, right?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. What are your thoughts? Is the narrative correct? Do you think a lot of it is his fault?
Well, I mean, listen, with the job he did 2 years ago to win that title, it's he should be safe for at least,
Well, and also last year they were a great defensive team as well, even though they didn't win, even though it didn't work out for them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's just not a good roster construction. And, I don't know if anybody can win with this. And so it's what are you supposed to do? I mean, you have to play Russell Westbrook. What's that?
They need Evan Mobley.
They need Evan Mobley, right, to go alongside. Maybe they can play. Yeah, they can play 4 7-footers together. Yeah, No, they need Chet Holmgren, then they'll be set. By the way, that is the future. Wow, I'm glad I can make you laugh that hard. That is the future. 5 7-footers who can all dribble and pass and shoot, right?
That is the future. I mean, I think I talked about this with somebody on my podcast, like, is small ball the future of basketball? And he was trying to say that, man, who was this? I have his name in my head. He's actually really good. But anyway, he's saying that, like, 5 Bam Adebayo was actually the future of basketball. Like, having 5, 6'9", 6'10" guys that could do a little bit of everything.
Well, Pat Riley had been talking about that since Magic Johnson. He wanted to have 5 Magic Johnsons. And again, interestingly enough, Magic didn't really shoot that well from the outside either. Toward the end, he did. But if you don't have shooting, then you forget it. You need to have the shooting. So it can't be Bams. It's got to be, who's the really
OGs? OG can shoot a little bit.
Yeah, OG, but he's not quite at that length, like to make the real thing.
Kawhi. Well, Kawhi's not big enough, right?
Kawhi. Yeah, you probably want 5 Kawhis. Maybe a 6'9". What is he? 6'8", 6'9", whatever he is.
I'm trying to think. Oh, Paul George, but he's an anomaly.
Paul George is pretty good. Yeah, that would be probably you want 5 Paul George.
Just the thing is though that he doesn't have the defensive versatility like a Bam, but like he can't guard bigs.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, to me he's better than Bam. Like, I love Paul George. I'm just saying, I guess. I think defensive versatility.
But you could swarm that if you had 5 Paul Georges, and you could double, like a Jokic, and cause a lot of problems.
Well, if Scotty Barnes gets his jump shot all the way there, it could be 5 Scotty Barnes.
Okay, there you go. Well, I can't wait to see that. Listen, we're long in the tooth here on the show. A great show. Great to have everybody out there. And thank you, everybody, Buzzer Beater and BB Coach JW for the Super Chats. And we'll post this, and also Buzzer Beater again for the Super Chat. We'll post this as a podcast in case you missed part of it, all of it, some of it. We'll post it tomorrow. I also have an interview with the guy who wrote a great book that I'm going to try and shove in there as well. So stay tuned for that tomorrow during the day. And Combo, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you, Coach Nick. Thank you so much.
Hey, and don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Combo?
Coach Nick, I'm in.